Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm back again. It's Robert Phoenix. It is the 14th of May, and it is another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. Just kind of do a little grooming here. My gosh, I'm looking a little rough this morning. Uh, Final day here in terms of broadcasting from the former world headquarters of 11th House Media. Let me just turn this thing off. There we go. Yes, tomorrow it's the big move, the big move day. It's going to be kind of an interesting experience. I have been an apartment dweller since 2012 here in Texas. When I first moved here, I left a small house in California back in 2012, which I had been at for 2 years. Moved there in 2010, and prior to that time, I was just doing a lot of like house living, right? So the apartment thing was kind of new for me. The last time I'd lived in an apartment prior to being here in Texas was back in the mid 90s, when I actually managed an apartment building from 1992 to 1996 in Oakland, California. And that was one of the most memorable chapters of my life. Other than that, the apartment life has really not been a part of my life. So I'm looking forward to getting back into a house, and a house with a significant yard. So, can grow a few things back there, maybe get a little chickies, get some eggs happening. So as a result of that, tomorrow there will be no Friday Firecast, and I am shooting for a Sunday night Astro Live from the new locale. Fingers crossed. I should have everything hooked up. It's just a matter of, how I want to present the show and all that good stuff. Also, I'm getting a new computer back. I'm not a new computer. I'm getting an older computer back that I'm having worked on at the shop, which is, I'm really looking forward to that. Getting one of my trusted laptops up to speed, new hard drive, new battery, new fans. And I have another one that I'm going to be updating as well. So it's good to have at least one or two or even three computers. And so lots of great changes. And there can be gravity and entropy out there in the world. But there's also something wonderful, radical, alchemical, and transformational happening in each and every one of us, which is the call to awakening and a time for change. And change is risky. Change doesn't always feel comfortable at the beginning or the onset or the inception of change. But if we don't change, if we don't evolve, then we may as well just line up for the vaccination or the jab, which I'm going to talk a lot about today, by the way. As you can see from the title of today's show, there seems to be a turf war going on in the vaccine world. I'm going to cover some of that, and it's a little disturbing, to be honest with you. And we're going to have to steer this thing down because it is a freight train coming right at us. And we're going to have to figure out how we're going to deal with this thing and what level of commitments we're all going to have to not accept the vaccination. We're all going to have to stare that down. Like, what are you willing to accept or not accept? And how are we going to strategize in, around, and through what we're really staring down on the event horizon? So before we get into a lot of that, there's a lot of ground to cover today. Let me go into Chatlandia, and let me say good morning to everybody. Let's see who we have here. There's my man, Steve. What's going on, Steve? Up 77. There's Jennifer, 108 Dragon. Good morning. There's my girl, Judy. Hi, Judy. Cheryl Losciavo. There's Joe Mama. Liz Luscious. Joan S. chiming in. Christine Mose. What's going on, my favorite pirate? VV, good morning from Atlanta. Oh, I know who VV is. Good to see you, VV. Jill Wong. Jill Wong, you're in the right place. Christy Tesmerk, nice to see you, Jill. Happy Thursday to you too, Christy. Marie Gilson. Good morning, Marie. There's my man, DJ MC. Ani Brito, the wench with a wrench. Sheriff 1A. Steve being Sheriff 1B. How's that? Tomorrow you can switch. Steve, you can be 1A tomorrow. Ani, you can be 1B. We're an equal opportunity enforcement society here. JMP Love, good to see you. Tamara, hello, Tamara. My man, Justice Moody. Nice to see you, Justice. Let's see. Business Maryland open tomorrow, except restaurants. Got to get that stone crab, Cheryl. Sue, hey, good morning. Sue, nice to see you. The Crimmies in the house. We have to step out for a few minutes, but we'll check back in soon. Thanks for checking in, Crimmies. What's up, CB? Liz De Leon. Morning, Liz. Cindy Burton making it for the live broadcast. Lynn, my internet is on today. That's good news. Let's see. My son. I'm assuming he's fine. Shannon McMurray, the lunar lady in the house. Amanda Pomander. Nice to see you, Amanda. Gonna have to derail the train. Yeah, we're gonna work. We're working on it. There's Maury. Hey, Mr. Maury. Donna 77. Good morning, Frank. Good to see you. Brooklyn CB again. Once again, good morning, CB in the house. There's Natasha. Hello, Natasha. Rob, my man. Chopra. The real Chopra. Not that fake ass Chopra. The real Rob Chopra. Raven Rain. Hello, Raven. Good to see you. Welcome. Pacific Northwest chiming in. There's Sherry. Hi, Sherry. Nice to see you as well. Sherry and I just became Twitter friends. We're following each other now on Twitter. Lot to get into today. Wow. We are on the bullet train now. Oh, boy. All right. Let's do our little prayer here so we can keep the energy high, keep the vibe high. Dear blessed and holy Father, Mother God of the great central sun, which is the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sanado Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest and best information and truth come through this transmission for each and every one of us, that any karmic residue that we share or hold be clarified, purified, dissipated, and dissolved so that we can enter back into our lives without any hooks or any connections that will interfere with the expression of our highest self, the spirit of Logos coming through each and every one of us. So be it. All right, let's get into it. Let's bring it. Where do I want to start? Why don't I start with the big heavy? The big heavy is that we get good Trump and we get bad Trump. And today is a great example of good Trump, bad Trump. Mr. Gemini on steroids. Right? So we're going to look at both sides. Why don't we look at good Trump? Let's look at good Trump. This is the Trump that we like. Right? So finally, unless they're doing a good cop, bad cop thing, straight out of a 1970s police drama, Donald Trump lashes out at Dr. Fauci for voicing caution about reopening schools. So Fauci's starting to take a little heat. He's used to this guy. Fauci is scaly. He is scaly. I mean, you saw what he did with Rand Paul yesterday and how he completely redirected that narrative. So Fauci is not a dummy. Let's be honest about that. He may be in a position of pimping out poison cocktails and serving his master, Bill Gates, but he's not unintelligent. The way that he handled Rand Paul yesterday showed me that he actually knows what he's doing on a number of different levels. So I would say that Tony Fauci is more like a dark magus. That's what he feels like to me, because he just turned that whole thing around like that, right? So we had Rand Paul going after Fauci. Now we have Trump. So theoretically, this is good Trump. President Trump said he wanted American schools to be reopened because our country isn't reopened if they're closed. This has a number of ramifications. We're not talking just like elementary schools or high schools. we're talking junior colleges, and we're talking colleges. And many colleges are dependent upon sports, particularly football, to generate revenue. Now, whatever you think about football, whatever you think about the overinflation of the coaches and their salaries, which is a very legitimate argument, it cannot be denied that the revenue that's generated through professional football, the college level, football and basketball is significant. It funds most of the other athletic activities and actually pays for some other amenities and teachers, whatever, in a campus on a university. Now, depending upon the school, how that is allocated and spent is a whole other story. But if there's no college in the fall, there will not be any college football. And without college football, you don't have these massive revenue drivers. I'm of two minds with this. Most of the colleges have become, indoctrination centers. When Bill Ayers talked about how they would have to have these centers to re-educate millions of Americans so that they could willingly participate in a social Marxist society, they had achieved their goal. They turned the college campuses into those exact same centers. So, these people are very, very good at what they're doing and what they've done. And they're very accomplished at how they can socially engineer a society. We've seen it, and we're witnessing it again, another level of the social engineering. Anyway, let's get back to this. He told reporters at a meeting with governors Wednesday that the coronavirus has very little impact on young people. And he lashed out at Dr. Anthony Fauci on Wednesday, telling reporters in the cabinet room that he wants to play all sides of the equation, which is true. When you listen to Fauci, he bounces around. He'll say, well, there's the masks don't work, the masks work. We're not going to have as many fatalities and deaths. It's going to be catastrophic, right? He's always kind of changing his position. He's always in the pivot mode. He's saying one thing over here and another thing over here, which is intentional, by the way. It's totally intentional. And then he's couching his calculations. He's saying one thing, he's saying another thing. He's not a dummy. Clearly, he's been schooled in some form of neuro-linguistic programming and rhetoric. So Trump is calling him out on it a bit here. President Trump demanded schools be reopened during a meeting with governors on Wednesday, blasting Anthony Fauci for preaching caution, saying Fauci wants to play all sides. In an interview conducted earlier Wednesday, the president told Fox Business anchor Maria Bartiromo that he totally disagreed with Dr. Anthony Fauci on schools, adding the +4, while Fauci is a good person, he's someone the president has disagreed with. In an interview conducted earlier Wednesday, the president told Fox Business anchor Maria Bartiromo that he totally disagreed with Dr. Anthony Fauci on schools, adding that while Fauci is a good person, he's someone the president has disagreed with. Trump should have shit-canned Fauci from probably week 2 or 3. Excuse me. If Trump was really cagey, he would never have allowed Fauci to actually be on that response team. He would have looked about 2 or 3 levels down and found somebody either at NIAID or somebody at the CDC who would be elevated very quickly and then be beholden to him, right? So, what was the long-term goal here with Fauci? Was it to out him? Was it to have people ultimately understand that this guy is walking around with the stench of over 40 plus years of leading the people into catastrophic situations vis-a-vis his response to HIV and any of these other kind of viral plagues and contagion that he's had his hooks into? Is that part of the plan? Just like, is it part of the plan to expose these governors? It's a really high wire act. It's living on the edge. It's getting close to that third rail. And if it accomplishes that goal, then, I'm all for it. But the goal here would be to ultimately expose this stuff and then completely eliminate it as a result of that. Expose the toxicity and then eliminate the toxicity. Because if it's not eliminated, then the exposure is yet kind of another festering wound that has no closure. No closure. And we are living in a history with a litany of events that have no closure. So what happens when we don't have any closure? We have psychological trauma, and those traumas tend to live on and exist because the monster hasn't been put back into the box. And this is what everybody is screaming for. This is why people get very hooked into this whole idea of indictments, because there's this, and look, the left has their version of this as well, right? The left sees, Trump and the people around him, the Trump administration, they see them as their opportunity for closure as well, by eliminating the boogeyman, by having the wicker man and setting the wicker man ablaze, that it winds up being this exorcism for their individual and collective sins, which have been perpetrated against them. And in many cases, they're unconsciously perpetrated against others as a result of that. So everybody's looking for this kind of moment where we have this potential to cleanse the past, right? To cleanse the past and have closure on any number of things. But what happens is we have more and more of these blistering, festering wounds that get opened and they're not closed. So now we have another one with Mike Flynn. And what's happened is that the other side has quickly gone after Flynn again. All right. So now we're watching a very interesting, another turf war taking place. I'm going to be talking more about turf wars today. Let's get back into this a little bit here. Dr. Anthony Fauci testified before the Senate Health Committee on Tuesday and said school officials needed to study the dynamics of the outbreak in their areas before reopening institutions in the fall. Okay, so how many school officials are really qualified to study the dynamics of the outbreak? How many school officials are really schooled and taught and indoctrinated into the world of statistics, data analysis, vector interpretation, demography? Are you kidding me? That they should study the dynamics of the outbreaks in their areas. That's easy for a little Mr. Potentate to say. I mean, that's all he is. He's a potentate. He's decree this, decree that, decree this, decree that. Well, they should study. Well, what if I'm a school official? Yeah, I studied it. We had a few cases here. We're opening back up. Right? Dr. Anthony Fauci had talked about a concerning trend in children who are likely exposed to COVID-19 in response to Rand Paul saying he didn't think Fauci should be the end all in coronavirus advice. Absolutely. He shouldn't be the end all, because if we take his advice, it'll be the end of us all. But clearly the guy's got a mission, and the mission is, let's get Mr. Bill Gates' vaccines to the market as fast as possible. He told the Fox Business anchor that Fauci was a good person. How do we know that Fauci's a good person? People keep saying he's a good person. And I know Tucker Carlson does this too. Tucker is the king of this, because Tucker will say, obviously he's come on the show before. He seems like a very respectable person. He seems like a very intelligent person. And we know that this to be true based on his immense education or whatever. And then Tucker will, take the dagger out of his belt and then start hacking away. Watch him do that. He's great at that. He's great at acknowledging a person's merits, or he's really great at acknowledging their bona fides, right? And then the dagger goes in. He's brilliant at that. Fauci never said that the schools shouldn't be reopened. This is him talking out of both sides of his mouth. He won't say that the schools shouldn't be reopened, but then he'll say something else. It's kind of like somebody who has a prediction and makes a prediction, but then says these other things about the prediction, so that it couches or it cushions the prediction, which will most likely fail. However, in this case, when he says there'll be a second wave of the virus, you know that whether it's real, whether it's something new that's being introduced into the collective biome, as it were, or the statistics are ginned up, guarantee you we'll be dealing with the chatter of Corona 2.0. We're already hearing some of this come out of China. Whether it's real or not, we can't tell, because China obviously can't be trusted. And the people inside of our government who have very strong ties and relations to China, whether through their connection at a governmental level or at a media level, who promote the Chinese narrative, they can't be trusted either. Speaking of which, for my friends up north in Canada, Justin Trudeau and the Canadian government just entered into an agreement with the Chinese government to help fund their research on a coronavirus vaccine. So all you folks up in the Great White North, the merger between Canada and China is happening at warp speed. Okay, it's being surfaced now. It's no longer hidden in plain sight. It's in plain sight. Okay, so now we're into the turf war, this is the turf war for the vaccines, which I'm going to get into today. So on Tuesday, let's see what Bill de Blasio, whose name isn't Bill de Blasio at all. That de Blasio is his mother's maiden name. He took that. Reported that a total of 52 New York City children had been diagnosed with the syndrome, with another 10 cases pending. One child had died. Okay. One of the things that they leave out of the child equation is the fact that children get vaccines. They get vaccines. They're on a very rapid vaccination schedule, and a lot of them. Okay, a lot of them, and we don't know. We really don't. I mean, you read the inserts on the vaccines, and you read the inserts. They are scary because they actually say what they put in the vaccines and what some of the what some of the results, or some of the impact that the vaccines will have on the body are they're horrific. So would it be too much of a stretch to think that these kids who are getting this Kawasaki syndrome might actually be suffering from the repercussions of a vaccination or a vaccine, especially if it's in conjunction with something else that might be floating around the atmosphere? Maybe a 5G frequency, maybe some sort of particulate that's floating around the sky? Question mark, question mark. People don't really go down that rabbit hole, though, do they? Because when you do that, then you've got to look at the whole vaccination situation, and we are coming up on really the event horizon with the vaccination piece. And I'm going to get into that right now. So one of the things that we've witnessed, and people have been really hot on the case with Bill Gates in the process of putting together his vaccine, which is probably already done. They've had a lot of time to work on this. They're not running around. They're playing ping pong, right? They're drinking pina coladas, playing ping pong, probably watching, some version of porn on their screens. They're just waiting around. They've got this thing already cooked up, right? They're saying, okay, well, we're looking at, a year from now, year and a half from now. The reason why they're saying a year and a half from now for their vaccine is because they want the social engineering to be in place for that long, right? They want to re-engineer people at a core level, social distancing, this generation of kids that have had their school interrupted, their childhood interrupted, now they can't, have got to wear a mask. Think about how it's going to impact those kids. think about what these kids are going to become as a result of the social engineering. So they want to keep this in place. They've got the vaccine. Come on, people, let's be real. They've got their version of the vaccine, but they want to keep this thing open for about a year and a half, right? Remember, it's called Agenda 21 for a reason. They want their new version of the world, their new world order. They want it in place by 2021, Agenda 21, right? So they're just sitting there, they're having a cigarette, playing a little ping pong, having a little Mai Tai. Then once people have been sufficiently socially engineered that their spirits have been broken, their bank accounts have been broken, their supply chain has been broken, then they will be ready with the vaccine. Oh, all you have to do is just take the vaccine. You take the vaccine, you get to come back out into society. Well, you get to have all those wonderful things you used to have before. Remember football, remember basketball, remember baseball. Baseball, by the way, they need to bring baseball back because baseball is the one sport that has social distancing built into it. Like, that is a social distancing sport. The players don't really touch each other. They don't really touch each other. Football, they touch each other. Basketball, they touch each other. Hockey, baseball, they're all in their own little individual pods, right? And it's not the most popular sport. And America has been socially distancing themselves from baseball for the last 20 years. So they could open baseball back up. It shouldn't be a real problem. But I tell you, I got to tell you, man, these athletes today, they're pricks. They're just soft little pricks. I'm sorry. They are. Yeah, we're not really going to go back. We're not, we don't want to work for that amount of money. Yeah, because now Major League Baseball has this new deal on the table. This is not your typical season. They're going to be playing, about 85, 90 games. So Major League Baseball is saying, hey, look, we don't want to pay you for a whole season. Now, the owners are greedy, obviously, but they're looking at their bottom line. They don't get to become owners by being just completely generous. That doesn't happen. So they're saying, look, we're going to split the gate with you 50-50 this year. Well, what is the gate? If they're going to allow people in the stands, let's say a stadium holds 40,000 people. They may be able to have 20,000 people in the stadium because they're going to seat them one person, empty seat, one person, empty seat. You're going to see this on airplanes too. You'll see it on airplanes. There will be an empty seat there. Right, but you're going to have to pay extra because you'll have more room and they'll have less people on the airplane. But let's just go back to the baseball thing for a second. So they're going to say, okay, we're going to split the gate. The gate is also not just who shows up in the stadium, but it's also TV revenue. So they're saying, look, we wanted this new deal in place and we'll split it 50-50 with you. And the players are like, screw you. Screw you. You want us to come back and play at a 50-50 rate? Look, here's a message to all professional athletes. You're in a privileged position. You get to play games and you get to make money. You're paid to play games. All right. There are people that are out of fucking work and they will never get their jobs back. And you're bitching about having to split something 50-50 to get paid to play a child's game as an adult. And I'm a big sports fan. You won't find a bigger sports fan than me, probably. But I can easily turn on these institutions, which are showing their true colors in a time of crisis. Like, are you kidding me? They don't like the deal? Then don't play. Don't play. If you don't like the deal, don't play. And the clock is on you. And just like the rest of us, at some point, you'll run out of assets and you'll run out of resources, and then you'll go wind up selling cars or ventilators because that's what they used to do back in the day when Major League Baseball players might make $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 a year. What did they do in the offseason? They all had jobs. They sold insurance, they sold cars, they had construction companies, right? And it's not until the 70s with the advent of the players' unions when revenues went up that players were able to say, hey, look, I don't have to work during the offseason. I could chill, I can relax, I can take care of my body. But it's like, come on now. You really going to play that card? It's ridiculous. Anyway, so here we are. We're in a race to the vaccine. A certain group of people want to have that at about 18 months out for a specific reason, not because they need to develop the vaccine. They have the vaccine. Are you kidding me? They've been working on this thing for decades, okay? Decades. So they want to just socially engineer as many people as possible, get people used to the new normal, but also get to the point where they're desperate and they'll do anything for the vaccine. On the other hand, or on the other sort of arc with this development of the vaccine, is you have the Trump camp. And Trump has jumped in feet first on the vaccine piece, and he's created something called Operation Warp Speed. Now, for all of you people that support the president, have an investment in Q, where we go one, where we go all, you're about to meet your greatest test in terms of either following orders or believing that the president of the United States has your best interests at heart. This is it. This is the acid test. This is the litmus coming right at you. And I'm going to show you essentially what we have here. And I'm going to even go into the theoretical enemy camp to give you the blueprint of what's taking place. So when I say the enemy camp, I'm talking about CNN. White House names heads of warp speed coronavirus vaccine effort. There it is. The image emblazoned upon your screen. Theoretically, and I say theoretically, your future. Moncef Slaoui, the ex-head of GlaxoSmithKline's, also known as GSK, vaccine division. So this guy, I'm going to get into him a little bit. He's multinational. He was born in Morocco. Apparently, his sister died of whooping cough, and that he dedicated his life from that moment forward to eradicate all diseases because his sister succumbed to one. It's kind of like Batman shit, isn't it? It's like Batman's parents die, and then Batman dedicates himself to fighting crime and avenging his parents' death. So he's like the Batman of vaccines. Two White House officials said yesterday, Moncef Slaoui, born in Morocco, educated in Belgium, made hundreds of millions of dollars here in the United States. Now, there's another person involved in this. This is an important piece. Again, it's quite Gemini. Is that Army General Gustav Perna is also involved here. Slaoui will act as the chief advisor, and Perna will serve as the chief operating officer overseeing logistics. What does that say to you? That says to me that the United States Army is going to be involved in the distribution of vaccines. That's exactly what it says. That is exactly what it says. Perna will serve as when I think about this, I get a really bad feeling in my stomach, I have to say. The appointments come 2 weeks after Trump announced the operation to quickly ramp up production and organize distribution plans for a forthcoming vaccine, which experts say is still months or years away. They're trying to get this thing out by the end of the year, because they want to beat Bill Gates to the marketplace. And there's a reason for this. And I'm not saying it's justifiable. Look at the color of the gloves. They're purple. They want to beat Bill Gates to the marketplace because they want to open the country back up. Trump is theoretically concerned about the economy, which on some level he should be. But the economy is also connected to his legacy. He does not want his legacy being tarnished by the economy going into the dumpster. So he's trying to get things ramped up, right, as quickly as possible. He doesn't want to wait a year and a half. He wants it like now because he thinks if he can provide the vaccine, then it's like, okay, let's turn the switches back on and everybody can go. Right? The other thing is that there's an economic incentive, and that if the government is involved in the production of a vaccine, they're actually involved in, guess what? Profiting off of the vaccine, because they'll be charging people for the damn vaccine. You think the vaccine is going to be free? No, it won't be free. They'll just take it out of your taxes. They'll say, okay, well, we have X amount of money we're dedicating to this operation. Where are we going to get it from? We're going to get it from the American people. We'll take it out of your taxes. Well, good luck on that, because nobody's really working. So where are they going to get the money from then? Well, I guess they'll just make it up from somewhere, because they just make up money anyway. But this is the part that you really have to be very concerned about right there. 4-star Army general. I tried to look up some information on this Gustav Perna guy. There's no real information. This is an interesting theme now that I've been looking at with some of these officials. It's like this guy Gaynor, who is in charge of DHS, or is it FEMA? I think it's FEMA. Rick Gaynor. It doesn't say when he was born. There's no birth date. This guy Gustav Perna doesn't say when he was born or where he was born. I have no idea if this guy is a U.S. national. The name does not strike me as being a U.S. national. It does, in his Wikipedia page, say that he was educated in New Jersey. But other than that, I have no idea where he's from. Have no idea where he was born. And maybe somebody can find that out. We know that Moncef Slaoui is an internationalist. Born in Morocco, educated in Belgium, made his fortune here. The appointments come 2 weeks after Trump announced the operation to quickly ramp up production and organize distribution plans for a forthcoming vaccine, which experts say is still months or years away. The effort had been overseen by HHS Secretary Alex Azar and Defense Secretary Mark Esper, and their agencies will remain involved in the efforts. A number of people were considered over the past week for the vaccine chief position, so he's a vaccine czar. In addition to Slaoui, one official said, including Elias Zerhouni, Slaoui and Zerhouni. It sounds like a comedy team. Slaoui and Zerhouni. I don't know. The world is just getting so strange. The former head of the National Institute of Health under George W. Bush, and Art Levinson, the CEO of Calico. You know, it just strikes me that people who are born outside of the United States, and even people born inside the United States, we'll get into some of that a little bit later, they don't have the same kind of buy-in, right? I mean, sometimes, and I've met people. I remember one time I was in a Lyft ride with this guy who was, where was he from? I think he was from like Syria or Libya or someplace like that. And the guy was more American than just about any American I'd ever met. So it's not uncommon from somebody from another country to have very American ideals, in some ways even more American in a lot of ways. But the other side of that is, hey, look, I'm not from this place. I'm an internationalist. I don't care. Let me just sign in the dotted line, right? Slaoui headed GSK's global vaccine business from 2015 to 2017. Before that, he acted as its longtime chairman of global research and development. He helped develop vaccines to prevent infantile rotavirus, gastroenteritis, cervical cancer, and shingles. The goal of Trump's Operation Warp Speed, which may prove impossible to meet, is to make 100 million doses of the vaccine available by November You know why? He wants people to also go out and vote physically. None of this ballot by mail shit. So there are these weird kinds of sacrifices that are being drawn up. Scientists who are part of the Trump administration's coronavirus vaccine project have identified 14 vaccines to focus on for development, according to a senior administration official. Those involved in the effort expect to have 6 to 8 of the vaccines being tested, make it to subsequent rounds of trials, the official said. So let's see. This guy, Rick Bright, was ousted. Bright filed a formal whistleblower complaint on Tuesday, alleging his early warnings about coronavirus were ignored and that his concerns about promoting an untested therapeutic heralded by the president led to his ouster. So we have BARDA. What is BARDA? What's it stand for? We have BARDA, and then we have Moderna. BARDA has issued close to $1 billion in grants. It's $1 billion in a grant to Moderna and Johnson & Johnson. Oh, here we go. The real president chimes in here. Jared Kushner, the president's senior advisor and son-in-law, is likely to be engaged in the administration's vaccine effort. But the official said the White House was eyeing a prestigious and empowered director. Don't you just feel so much better that Jared Kushner is overseeing the vaccine effort? I do. Whenever I want somebody to be in charge of a major vaccine effort, I want to make sure that his office is located at 666 West Fifth Avenue in New York City. That just gives me an extreme feeling of confidence. So who is this person? Who is Moncef Slaoui? Well, I'm sure there's a great deal of information we can find on about him. I did a little cursory digging last night, and I did come up with one company that he was involved with that had a really interesting name. Let me show you the name of that company. So, Mr. Slaoui was part of the executive team of investors in a company called Divide and Conquer. You cannot make this shit up. You cannot make this shit up. This guy headed up a team of cancer, vaccines, research, whatever, at a company called Divide and Conquer. So Moncef Slaoui is a partner at Medici. I guess that's how you say it. Like the Medicis, one of the great black families, black nobility of Venice. Having joined the firm in September 2017, aside from Divide and Conquer, he has an active role in several other Medici portfolio companies. So it talks all about his background. He was a big deal at GlaxoSmithKline, chairman of his vaccine division, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Outside of his role at Medici and Medici portfolio companies, he's chairman of the board of Galvani Bioelectronics, which is founded by GSK and Alphabet Inc. Alphabet Inc. Do we know who Alphabet Inc. is? Yeah, it's Google. Subsidiary Verily Life Sciences, chairman of the board at Sutrovax, a venture-backed biopharma company, and sits on the boards of Artisan Biosciences Human Vaccines Project, Moderna Therapeutics. This guy is the Mengele of vaccines, apparently. His past board service includes Pharma Foundation, Cutter Foundation, NIH Advisory Committee, to the director and bio. He earned a PhD in molecular biology and immunology from the University Libre de Bruges, Belgium, and completed postdoctoral studies at Harvard and Tufts. formerly professor of immunology at the University of Mons in Belgium. Monsef has offered more than 100 scientific papers and presentations. He has been featured in Fierce Biotech's 25 most influential people in biopharma today. He is fluent in Arabic, French, and English. Where do people get the time to write all these papers, to be on all these boards, to do all this research? Where the hell do they get the time to do this? Right? I can barely have enough time in the day to do 3 or 4 readings, do a broadcast, answer emails, book and schedule. I guess he has people working for him, but even still, I mean, think about all these things that these people theoretically do. Do they really do these things? Do they really do these things? Has everybody looked at the 100 papers that he's written? Did he even write those papers? Did he have people write them for him? Did he have an algorithm write the damn? We don't know. We're just supposed to take these things at face value because they have all these credentials that say they did this and they did this. And maybe they did. I'm not saying that he didn't do some of these things, but you look at the list of achievements that certain people have, it's like beyond human. Well, that may be a little bit of a hint or clue that we might have to spend a little time with. Anyway, this is the guy that is now in charge of getting a vaccine into the marketplace, into the community, and into your arm. And unfortunately, he's got the other side of this thing, which is this Gustav Pena character, who is the army. The army will be charged with giving vaccines, okay? Because we're at war, remember? We're at war, we have an unseen enemy. So the army has to fight the unseen enemy. And the unseen enemy is in your body. So they're going to go into the front lines to take that unseen enemy on. Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? Somebody's going to have to really have a discussion about this in a big way. Really big way. So let's just say, let's play a little game now. It's called the election game. And let's just say that you don't want this to happen. Like, you're seeing this coming. And you could make a case that, oh, well, Trump will have the good vaccine. He wants to get there first because Bill Gates has the bad vaccine. So we'll trust the good vaccine. See, this is the turf war that I'm talking about. And really, you know, the El Dorado here is the fucking vaccine, right? It's not about quote unquote free energy. It's not about, interstellar drive. It's not about creating little, I don't know, like biocultures or aquadomes for every home, right? There's no race for that. Think of all the money that they're throwing at this thing, right? Theoretical money. And what's it a race for? It's a race for a freaking vaccine. It's not a race for anything that's going to elevate our standard of living, elevate our potential for consciousness. Wouldn't that be something? Let's get into the freaking race for free energy. But we know they've already got free energy, so that'd be kind of useless. But from a theoretical standpoint, wouldn't that be great? The Manhattan Project for freaking free energy. No, instead we get the Manhattan Project for a vaccine. And then we get these opposing camps that are trying to get there first. You know, who's going to get to the metaphorical moon with the vaccine, the first vaccine? So people are going to start to talk about this, and I'm really wondering how this is going to impact Trump's base. Are they just going to co-sign on this thing? He's got a lot of evangelicals that voted for him, you know, and I'm sure a lot of the evangelicals are already brainwashed, but they're going to have to take a step back here a little bit. Then what's interesting is that, again, because Trump is taking the bull by the horns and rolling out this vaccine at warp speed, you would think that the people who want to stay in their homes, who are pro-vaccine, right? They're really pro-vaccine. They think that the anti-vaxxers like Carol Baker yesterday showed that they just need to be wiped out, that they would wrap their arms around Trump around this. I'm not sure that's going to happen. He's never going to win those people over. So he's not winning those people over because he's Trump. He's alienating more of his base because of this so-called vaccine. Where's he going with this thing? The only thing I can think of is that they're going to cancel the election. Because if you didn't want him to kind of pursue the whole vaccine piece, like, I'm going to say something here that might be considered heretical. And I got to go soon because I got a reading at 10. I got 20 minutes left. And I got to get through a lot of stuff. But it would almost make more sense if Joe Biden was president in a weird way. And I'm not saying that I would vote for Biden, but it's like, I'd rather have Biden oversee the vaccine program. I hate to say it because he couldn't. And of course, there'd be other people that would push him along, but he couldn't sell it, right? So if you wanted to derail the vaccine program, you may want to vote Trump out. Theoretically. Just theoretically. Like, that's where people's heads would go. However, that said, Jared Kushner has already floated that there may not be an election this year. All right, so just wrap your head around all that. I got a lot of stuff to cover. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to try to hit some of these headlines very, very quickly. All right, so Christine Whitmer back in the news, of course, and Larry Mankey, who is the barber who has openly defied Christine Whitmer, has had his license suspended by Christine. Her new name is Christine Whitler, by the way. He's had his license suspended by Governor Whitler. And she has taken. So what happened is that the state of Michigan said he can run his business. And she went one step further and decided, fuck him. I'm going to take away his license. Like, she's targeted him just like Governor Evans targeted the guy who has the brewery to take away his liquor license. They're showing you how absolutely petty and corrupt they are. He's like, they're going to have to take me out in cuffs. That's what he says. He says, you're going to have to take me out of here in cuffs. So keep your eye on Larry Mankey. Apparently now he's one of the symbols of freedom in this country, a 77-year-old barber. These are the symbols of freedom that we have in this country. A 77-year-old barber, an early 50-something salon owner, a 60-something brewery and restaurant owner. This is the vanguard of the resistance. How about that? Wrap your head around that. The state of Wisconsin has suffered a bit of a setback because guess what happened? Court ruled against their governors. The state Supreme Court overturns Governor Evers' safer at home order. This is Governor Warhol right there. The state Supreme Court has overturned Governor Tony Evers' safer at home order. The 4-3 ruling came down Wednesday evening, says DHS Secretary Andrea Palm overstepped her authority in issuing parts of the order. The court declared the extension of the order until May 26 was unlawful, invalid, and unenforceable. There you go. That'll be interesting to see what happens in Wisconsin. People are standing up. They're beginning to push back a little bit. And they're going to have to push back a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until these people understand that they work for us and not vice versa. Okay? Not vice versa. Of course, they're following orders. They're not following the orders of the people in the state of Wisconsin, but 4-3 overturned. Gretchen Whitmer has been overturned. She made it personal. She's suspending the guy's license. Let me show you another disturbing trend, and this is the mayor of Chicago. I like to call her. Let me get out of here. I like to call her Mayor Beetlejuice. This is Mayor Beetlejuice. And Mayor Beetlejuice is clearly stating what the goal is here. This is what her role is in implementing the goal. It is no longer hidden in plain sight. It is wide open, right out there in plain sight. Here we go.
With the executive branch, because otherwise it doesn't work. So you got to eliminate that compliance, and you make it a mandate, and then you do training, particularly in the city, I'll call them licensing departments, whether it's zoning, buildings, housing will be impacted by it, planning certainly, and you pick the people to run those agencies and the deputies that are pledging allegiance to the new world order and good governance. And because otherwise it doesn't work. So you got to eliminate that compliance, and you make it a mandate, and then you do training, particularly in the city, I'll call them licensing departments, whether it's zoning, buildings, housing will be impacted by it, planning certainly, and you pick the people to run those agencies and the deputies that are pledging allegiance to the new world order.
Pledging allegiance to the new world order. There it is. It's right out in the open, and they have all of their governors and mayors in place in order to carry out these top-down commands and top-down orders. And you heard exactly what the plan is. You want to train the people who are working at zoning and planning, right? You get them to comply with the overall plan so that they can carry it out at a street level, okay? And all these people have been put into place now. They're all in place, and they're here to carry out this next phase that we're in. People don't understand this. They do not really fully comprehend this, right? So whether it's Mayor Beetlejuice or Governor Whitler or the governor of Wisconsin or Jay Inslee, I mean, these people they've got their mission. They've taken their mission statement, or they've taken the mission statement from their handlers and their controllers, and they're implementing the plan. And this is where we are right now. We are in a major conflict, right? We're in a major conflict, and it seems like the vaccine has become the leverage point. Like, they who control the vaccine now control how this thing is going to unfold. The vaccine has become like it's really become like the latest version of the atomic bomb, and whoever gets to the atomic bomb first controls how this thing is going to unfold. Oh, these are really scary and frightening scenarios on a lot of different levels. But remember, we're actually making some headway. We're making some progress. We are making some progress. People are noticing. People are standing up. Slowly but surely, the slumbering masses are awakening. Remember yesterday, I talked about sort of the algorithmic formula. For every 30 to 40 people that are in a kind of this different mindset, right? This different mindset, which is really comprised of groupthink, because they can't really muster the ability to have an individual thought or an individual consciousness. So they have to come together and create kind of a larger whole. So their fragmented selves can create one whole. It takes about 30 to 40 of those people, or that personality type, or that organelle, to equal one person who actually has informed consciousness, is awake, and wants to live by a greater sense of truth and justice in their lives. Just remember that, right? So theoretically, if you feel like I'm just empowered, or I'm a nobody, I'm just a person, if you use that algorithmic equation, you're as powerful as 30 to 40 people that have to come together, pull together, and comprise one whole. Just think about that for a moment, not from an egotistical perspective, but from really kind of a dynamics of consciousness perspective. Very important to wrap your head around that. especially if you feel like you just don't have any power at all. Right? So, when the word is when two or more are gathered together in my name, I mean, think about that. You get 2, 3, 4 people, that's equaling what? 120 of other. I mean, so the numbers tilt decidedly in a different direction. So remember that. All right. Got a few more things to cover here today before I skedaddle and get on out. Did I lose my bookmarks? I might have lost my bookmarks. Hold on. Where'd my bookmarks go? There they are. All right. Is there anything else I wanted to bring up here? Let's see. Not that. And, I wanted to get into this thing with, I just don't have the time today. I've only got about 10 minutes left before I have to jump off. Why don't I wrap it up here? Because I've got a client about 10 minutes and I need to get sort of zoned in on that. Let me check in with you guys in CL. Let's see where you're at. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see. The more they overplay their hand, the more folks will resist. Well, of course, because they're showing their cards. Let's see what else we have here. Ani getting a lot of love inside chat today. Let me repeat this. So this wiry scrap of a man just scolded me for not walking around the yellow line at the convenience store, refused to move, and politely smiling told him he is free to walk the labyrinth, but not me. He had to walk around me. That is so funny. And it's kind of depressing in a lot of ways that we've sort of, how do we say, defined our level of resistance by some guy walking around us in a line. But hey, that's where it all starts. Rob, who lives in Illinois, has said here, Pritzker has forced all bars and restaurants to remain closed until the end of June. Yeah, that means there's no baseball in Chicago, by the way. It's how the plan has worked in Portland. However, there is now, hi, Dina, nice to see you. Now no money, so they're now laying people off. That's how, well, they want to lay people off because they want to get them on the UBI. The UBI is the UBI is the economic drip line. They get them on UBI, you get the UBI money, and then in Portland, you're able to go down to the dispensary and load up, right? Then you can have Domino's come over and drop off a pizza, and that's your life. You get the UBI, you get a little high, you get the Domino's drive-by, there you go. That's nirvana. This is what humanity has evolved towards, right? This is what we've evolved towards. UBI, get high, the Domino's drive-by. It's a depressing picture. However, that said, that's not the totality of the picture. And again, I just want to share with you that I get a number of emails for people all over the world that are happy, that they are engaged and they enjoy the programming. I hate that word. They enjoy the content. They really enjoy the chat room. They don't feel alone, and it's growing, right? It is growing. The numbers, even if they're suppressed by YouTube, are growing. You can see that the views have gone from about 400 to 500 a day. Some days we're up around 2,000, which is mind-blowing, right? So the volume of this channel has quadrupled in really about a 2 to 3 week period of time. So wrap your head around that. It's not huge, right? It's not like 50,000 or 100,000 people are in here participating in our experience. But based on where it's been, quantifiably, that's enormous. So just wrap your head around that. You're not alone. You're not alone. We may be in disparate parts of the universe, but we are linked up in a network of real light, real consciousness, and real truth. And we're all supporting each other the best way we can. And we're getting stronger, we're getting wiser, and we're getting, in a lot of ways, more compassionate and empathic about our experience and being able to help other people, and those people who have shown that they are, I hate to say the word here, worthy of it, because not everybody's worthy of it. Not everybody's worthy of it. You have to figure out who is and who isn't. Unfortunately, those are business decisions. We're still in the time of Capricorn, and Jupiter, Capricorn, Saturn's coming back now. So you got to make those business decisions every now and then. You got to be the CEO of your own experience. But just wrap your head around the fact that in this little small corner of the internet, that the views have quadrupled over the last 6 weeks. It's very, very heartening, very heartening. And I want to thank all of you who have shown up here during the live stream, or who watch this later on in the day. We're not all able to, be here during the live stream, but I want to thank you. I want to thank you for subscribing. It's quite helpful. And when I move into the new digs, hopefully we'll be able to build in some infrastructure, also kind of on the help side of things. Because if this continues to go in this direction, I can't be a one-man band anymore. I'm going to need some one-man band-aids as some bandmates. Strike up the band. All right. Thanks again for being here today. I will not be here tomorrow. I will do my best to be here on Sunday night to do Sunday Night Astro Live. We got a lot to get into. We've got an eclipse coming our way. Venus is going retrograde. Mars is in Pisces. There's a lot of astrological change upon us. Some of the big planets are starting to go retrograde. Pluto's retrograde. Jupiter's next. We'll get into all that on Sunday night. Thanks again. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and we'll see you on Sunday night. Have a great weekend.